So welcome to our webinar, Coaching Through Crisis. I'm Sandra Moll. I'm the program advisor here at Coaching Out of the Box, and I will be your host for today's webinar. The reason for today is for you to walk away with a list of 10 plus 1 important considerations when you're coaching through crisis, as well as to get to know a little bit more about us here at Coaching Out of the Box. Here's the slide there. Again, I'm Sandra, the program advisor, and you can read a little bit about me on the screen. And as program advisor, I communicate with people every day who are interested in learning more about our programs and about coaching in general. I'm always happy to connect with each and every one of you, so please feel free to reach out at any time that you do have any questions. Also, the chat box and the Q&A is open for this webinar. Please feel free to use them. We love to hear from you. And once the webinar is complete, we'll be sending out an email to you that includes the slides for the presentation today, as well as a link to the recording. So I would like to introduce you all to our wonderful CEO and founder, Allison Hendren.
Hello, everybody. And I apologize. There was some technical difficulties today with Zoom. And as you all know, Zoom has exploded with its usage, and I guess we just had one of those experiences today. So anyway, I'm Allison Hendren, CEO and founder of Coaching Out of the Box, and I am absolutely delighted to be here today, especially during this time of crisis. And I really wanted to speak about that because boy, if ever there was a time that coaching would be needed, it is now. And it is also now a time that I think all of us, including the people that we work with, including the people we coach, et cetera, are really looking at our values. We're looking at meaning. We're really having time because we're all at home pretty much, or many of us are at home. We're dealing with small children running around in some cases, dogs barking that maybe normally we wouldn't be having happen. And also, I think it's important to acknowledge that many people are very overwhelmed, and this is the first time that any of us really are experiencing what's going on, and every day has some new announcements, some new information, at least certainly in my day. And also quite often there's things that happen in my day that I've never had happen before, just like today. I also wanted to say, yes, I am the CEO and founder, as I said before. You can see the slide and so on. And I'd also like to introduce our Chief Coaching Officer at Coaching Out of the Box, Merv, who's going to say a couple of things, and then we'll keep rolling with the rest of the webinar.
So I'll say a couple of little things. I mean, I'm pleased to be here. I'm excited about our topic because of the power that we coaches can have and the influence that's available. And so I'm really interested in getting to the material and sharing some ideas that our guys have found very helpful. We'll talk soon.
Okay. So Sandra, if you could just...
Certainly will. So the objectives for today's webinar is we are going to talk about moving from fear to facts, shifting the focus, short-term versus long-term, 10 plus 1 things you need to know when coaching in a crisis, as well as have some time for Q&A. And what we're going to do is just launch a quick poll just to get to know you all a little bit better here. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a quick moment for those of you that are in the room with us today to fill out the poll, that would be fantastic. For those on the recording, the questions that we are asking is just to learn a little bit more about those in attendance. Questions are, I'm here today to gain tips and tools I can use right away in my work and life. And these are all yes and no questions. Or I work in an organization and want to become more effective by adding coaching skills to my toolkit. I want to become a full or part-time coach with my own practice. I want to develop coaching skills to become a more effective leader and advance in leadership positions. I am a full-time coach, and also I am an ICF credentialed coach. So we're getting some of the questions answered right now, which is fantastic. And we'll let it roll on for about another 15 seconds, and then I'll go ahead and end the polling. Wonderful. Thank you all for taking a moment to fill that in. It just gives us a better idea of who our audience is today, so to make sure that this is a valuable webinar for you. So I'm going to go ahead and end the polling now. And I will go ahead and share results so Allison can take a look at those. And we are going to move on to our first objective. So Allison, I'm going to move the slide and pass it back over to you.
Okay, and what I'd like to do, Sandra, is just not even bother with the slide. Is that possible? Can we?
Of course, I can just put that right there for you.
Okay. We want this webinar, we want you to walk away from this webinar with some tips and tools. Now more than ever, we need to know, how do we proceed? How do we move forward? What do we do? And coaching is all about that forward movement, even in the midst of challenges, of change, and so on. And I came across 3 powerful articles that were just sent to me just recently. And I was literally, I liked them so much that I have some notes that I prepared. And I was literally scrambling to get them ready, because I really, really want to support your success. And all of us as coaches want to support people's success. I also really encourage we have a Q&A area that you can ask some questions of. Not that I'm going to be instantly stopping and answering questions, but it's good to know what's coming up. And also there is a chat area. If there's comments that you want to make, etc., you can do that. Is that right, Sandra? Today that will work okay?
That would be perfect. Go ahead and use it.
Perfect. So I can also put up the Q&A. Oh no, I see, it's a little different. All right, just the chat then. Okay. So, and don't hesitate while we're moving through this to share what you're experiencing, because we're all in this together, as everybody is mentioning. And we really want to figure out what's really going on and is what's possible for today, with all of our coachees, all of our clients, all of our family members, and so on. And I want to share a little story that came up just this past week about someone in one of our classes. And the story is one of our attendees at one of our classes. She sent me this lovely note. She has a son who works in healthcare in the general New York area. And as we all know, it's been just absolutely dreadful in that area. In any case, and so her son was really struggling, was really having some challenges. And as any of us can imagine, you know, the demands and what they're seeing and what they're experiencing. And what this wonderful woman said was that she took what she's learning on her classes, and she used those coaching skills and that coaching process to have, and it was in the middle of the night, I think it was like 2 a.m. in the morning, to support her son figuring out how he was going to move forward. And she really said that what was so helpful was that she just hung on to that, versus being, of course, for any of us who are mothers, versus kind of jumping into that piece. And I thought it was just so important. And it really speaks to, as well, about focusing for any of us who are dealing with issues and challenges, and we all are, on the short term, not that we don't forget the long term, but that we really need to help ourselves and others in really focusing on the short term and what is possible for today. This is a time of really great opportunity, whether we realize it or not. And I think it's important to really recognize that when we're working with our coachees, when we're in our working, well, we're not in our usual work environments. We're all usually at home and so on, although some of us are in work environments because you're an essential service. So this I thought was really interesting that came up, and we're going to include these links to these articles that I found with a person that I had read who is really all about transition, about change, about finding your callings and so on. And something he said that I thought was really interesting. In a way, we are really going through two pandemics right now. And they're going on side by side. One is the disease, and the other is fear. And fear is so prevalent in coaching because when we're working with our clients, they're going through change. That's why they're working with us. Something is different. They're being faced with something that they've never been faced with before. It's chaotic. There is so much unknown because there's this constant change and transition. That's what's happening right now. We've never experienced this before. We've never had something like this before. And how important are coaching skills now to support ourselves and others as we move through this thing. This thing is this pandemic, but I found that so helpful to recognize that we actually have two things going on. And we need to really recognize as well that we can do things like this. I really want to acknowledge all of you that have come today. You've taken time out of your day to do something for yourself. And we need to make sure that we're all doing that. We need to do things that will help us be calm. We need to understand that we need to take care of ourselves. And we need to, in a sense, and this might sound a little incorrect, but we need to welcome the wondrous and the change, the wonder of this and the strange of this, and develop hopeful thoughts and how to move forward and what is the opportunity of this right now. And I'm curious, and if you can comment in the chat, what's coming up for you as we're moving through this time of great change and unknown? What has been happening for you? Please feel free to mention what's coming up for you or what you're seeing in the people that you're working with. And at the same time that I'll keep my eyes on that, we also want to acknowledge that we also have our own fears and our own doubts and our own anxieties as we're going through this time. And one of the biggest things that we can do is we can support each other and our clients or our coachees in moving forward, in taking action as some way. And I'm also seeing some very interesting comments here. Anxiety, oh my goodness, yes. What is essential in my life and in society? Oh, those are potent comments. A reconsidering of normal, and if they want it to go back to normal when it ends, and what will normal be? Helen is saying, making the concept of working from home more acceptable. Impatience, frustration. Oh boy, I'm with you. I'm with you. Every day I'm getting emails or conversations that I've never had before. Things are coming up that I would have never have thought of. The need for more self-compassion. Ah, yes. Please, please, please. A willingness to see, oh my goodness, as a clean slate, an opportunity on which to paint future possibilities. Beautiful. There is no rule book. Boy, I'll tell you that. That's for sure. Opportunity. I love that. Seeing the opportunity. And that's what's so wonderful about the coaching community and people that get into coaching. It's such a positive environment because it's about going forward. It's about shifting. It's about changing. It's about evolving. The real value of our relationships. Let's see, will there be a tomorrow? What people are rethinking what they want, finding our way together. These are fabulous. I'm just so appreciating the comments, and keep them coming, because this is what is so supportive for all of us to see that. It's also a time when flattening that curve that they're all talking about can really create heroism. It can create compassion. It can create sanity. It can bring communities together. I'm guessing for any of you, I'm really noticing a difference. And as we said, the unexpected can suddenly arise and kind of go, ooh, and we're seeing our humanity. I didn't worry. I normally in my office, I've just moved into this room. It's all in disarray. Oh, well, I was worried about putting it. Oh, well, that's how it is. If you have small children and they're running around, oh, well, that's how it is. But it brings us all together as well. There's also, we're a bit frightened. We're a bit nervous. There is longing taking place. How many of you experienced, we just had a holiday weekend here, Easter. I couldn't be with my children, and I'm guessing some of you, or close friends and family. There's a lot going on, and it's of course going on for anybody we're coaching. There's also grief going on. It's a time of loss. It's a time of, it's a loss of time with our friends, it's our families, our physical connections. There's a loss of touch. We suddenly can't get close to each other. We can't hug. We can't, it's step back and so on. There's a lot going on. Plus loss of income, concern about the future, and anticipatory grief of losses to come. So it would be wonderful if we could make the chat comments available to everyone. I'm not sure if we can save that, but if we can, we will. I think that's really important. The suddenness has caused us to go through shock. Our adrenal systems are working overtime. I'm just capturing some of this. Yeah, and that's why these skills of coaching is so important. It can be the glue. It can be that moment in a day when we have those kinds of conversations. What will support their well-being? What will support our well-being and stress reduction? I think it's really important. And there's some other pieces that that our clients are going through. Bargaining, some depression, some of us could be feeling that. Accepting these changes. And as we've seen in some of the chat, we're looking for meaning. We're looking for meaning. So meditation, yoga, touch, all of those things, self-soothing touch can be so helpful. And here's one, I love this, but again, back to this opportunity. Heroes, I love this one. Heroes are not born. They're cornered. We're all kind of cornered right now. It comes out of this. We've never had this before. So the positive piece of all of this is many growth spurts that people have had, that our world has ever had, that individuals have ever had, are preceded by a crisis or a loss, and of some kind. And there's chaos, and there's unknown. And chaos precedes creation. And all of you are talking about what's going on for you and what's happening. And there's another term that I've used a lot myself. It's called failing forward. Something's failed, a system has failed, we can't do this, we've tried that, that's not going to work. And the other piece of this is that hope is so important right now. And it's the certainty that something makes sense, not always perfect, regardless of how it turns out. And again, for us as coaches, it's about that focusing forward. Coaching is so much about forward movement and what we can do. And there's 4 opportunities, and Merv is going to speak about some very pragmatic pieces to all of this shortly. Here's the 4 opportunities. Use this time as a reset in our lives. A reset for us, for our families, for our coachees. Consider it's kind of like a powerful meditation. It's kind of like the dog bark meditation, or the mower that's screaming out the window by our next door neighbor. I hope I'm making sense. It's a meditation of all of this is kind of a meditation that's going on. And it's the connective tissue amongst all of us together, all over the world. And so this, it can be when we can feel most alive, is during a crisis, and our creative juices can get going, and our heroism can come out, and solutions or situations that we never thought possible can occur. And I have seen this so much with the people I've coached over the years. No, they were not dealing with a pandemic, but they were dealing with profound change, loss of jobs, huge transitions in organizations, things in their family life, and they had to move through all of those phases. But they felt alive. They felt together. They felt connected. And there's also such an opportunity to ground ourselves amidst the turmoil. Turn off the TV, turn off the social media, turn off our iPads, step away from, I don't know about any of you, but I certainly caught myself getting all wound up and paying too much attention to what was going on or what was being reported and so on. And I've really pulled back on that and calmed myself down and meditated in the morning and so on. Too much news, absolutely. These comments are so fantastic. So let's move on to some practical, pragmatic tips and tools that you can use as we're all moving through this. And I'm gonna have Merv join us and share 10 plus things you need when dealing with this time that we're in.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks for raising my fear quotient again. No, it's delightful. It's interesting times. It's interesting times. I will tell you that if this time that we're in, I'm just fascinated. It's an unfortunate time from a health perspective, but I'm fascinated to see how much innovation is actually out there, and it'll be fascinating to see how companies or people or organizations or whatever the format is will rejig itself, and because people are enjoying it. One of my clients said, I finally fished my wish. I finally got what I've always asked for. I've been asking for work-life balance for years, and I now have it. I can now have breakfast with the kids, do my seminars, or talk to my employees. I can go for a walk. I can have wonderful work-life balance. So in spite of the gloom, there may be some opportunities for people to really shine into new ways. I want to share with you, we said a 10 plus 1, only because we didn't want to rob you by just giving you 10. And so the first one, the first bullet there is to, in the coaching relationship, we have an agreement. We have an agreement in terms of why we're going to talk. We have a formal agreement that says how, why we're going to talk and what we're going to get paid for and all that sort of things, what the exchange and what the outcomes are. But there's also a subtle coaching agreement, which simply says, what are we working on together? What's the focus of our conversation? What's the outcomes? How are we going to measure our success? And now's a really, really good time to realign those coaching agreements. And what I mean by that, it's a conversation with each one of your clients or the people you deal with. And by the way, I don't want you to be too narrow-minded on this thinking. This is the same advice we give to leaders with their people. Coaches are no different. We happen to put it in a coaching context, but leaders also need to renegotiate the relationship they have with each one of their employees in terms of, how often they want to speak with each other during the week. Do you really want to have coffee chats with your boss or not? What kind of check-ins do we now need? How do we replace the walking by the office conversation? And so that's what I mean by agreements. And it's really time to kind of align to a new set of conditions and continue to align those to a new set of conditions as well. Right? The next point is, and we've kind of talked a little bit about it in terms of fear. It's real easy to focus on the fear because it's available to us. A shift is that we move it to facts. And a really powerful question I'm experiencing seems to work is, what do we know for sure? And really help the person you're talking to, whether it's your client or whether it's your mother-in-law, whoever it is, what do we know for sure? We know we have this fear about somebody might get ill, but what do we know for sure? Well, they're not sick today. What we know for sure is they're taking precautions today. What we know for sure is that they're isolating and they're following the instructions. That's what we know for sure. And so really grounding a reality of what's the truth of today? What's the truth in the moment? And constantly doing that. And I was with a virtual walk with a client, and they were probably at about 10,000 feet in terms of stress and frustration and overwhelm and work. And I think for the 40 minutes, all I really did was focus on that one question. What do we know for sure? Yeah, but is that really sure? How do you know that? How can you prove that to yourself? Where have you seen that happen before? And by the time we were done with our virtual walk, they kind of said, I know where I'm going now. I have good clarity. So fear, facts replace fear very, very substantially. So absolutely put that towards you. Now, bullet number 3 is interesting. Because one of the core skills of any coach, any manager, hopefully any parent, is the ability to listen. And of course, in coaching, we call it listening for context. And the adage that 7%, only 7% of what we say in words is what's communicated. And the rest, the other 93% is nonverbal and tone and all sorts of energetic kind of non-word factors. And it's really, really important to listen to the context of the conversations that are happening. Particularly in this kind of situation or crisis situation, you listen for what's missing. If they normally talk about their work, or they normally talk about their kids, or they normally talk about their goals and aspirations, and today they're not, that is a powerful observation that you can make and bring to their attention. And so this idea of really fully listening to the context of what's happening, of their mood. I will tell you that just in a technique I use all the time. You know how you go through the hallway or wherever you're going out in the shopping center and you say, oh, how's it going? Oh, fine. I always respond to what they say, because if they say, hey, how's it going? And they say, oh, fine. I go, oh, really? Why just fine today? It's a wonderful way of stopping that rhetoric and pattern that we get into as individuals. The same thing with your coaching clients. Oftentimes that banter, that rapport building, first to 3 or 4 minutes of the call is a waste of time. And so you might as well get to it. So how was your week? Wow, it was great. Oh yeah, tell me about great. What does that really mean? How did that show up for you? And you really laser and focus on what's real for them. And so that listening component you cannot minimize at all. Bullet number four is really avoiding getting hooked by the drama. Of course, you probably never get hooked by drama, but sometimes I do. And what I mean by that is you get hooked into their story. Your kid comes home from school, and this is obviously a story from a few weeks ago, but if your kid comes home from school upset because somebody did something to them, somebody was describing, the situation that happened in the class or whatever. You want to go out and beat that other person up. You want to take charge, and you get sucked into the drama. The best gift you can give somebody is to accept their drama for what it is and look around it, look beyond it, look underneath it. If somebody comes to you and says, how was your day? Well, the dog, the dog's sick and we had to take the dog to the vet and it cost us $2,000 and then we got to take it back next week and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And it's real easy as a coach or anyone supporting anyone else to really get sucked into that story. And a technique here is to say, is to avoid the story and look at the bigger picture. Like, so has this happened before? Or are there, what else is happening in addition to the dog? And so you're helping the client or the individual look past and beyond their own drama. Because and I know drama's fun. It pays the bills. It's fun. It's joyous. We love getting into the messy. They love to get into the messy. They love to get into their own story. They get stuck in their story. And our job as client or as coaches is to get them out of their story and into their next story, to be honest with you, but into their next story. So bullet number 4 is all about don't get hooked by the drama. Bullet number 5, we talked about kind of fear and so forth, and there's a fear for the future. There's a fear of what could be, fear if I haven't got a job. All those fears are very real. And oftentimes in coaching, we tend to work in longer term goals. Where do you want to be when you grow up? What's the job look like? It's now time to obviously bring it back to shorter term goals. Now, I shared these first 5. I shared all 10 actually with a bunch of other coaches, and they all kind of said, well, Merv, those first 5 make sense to me. I mean, it just like, duh, it's obvious, isn't it? And I said, yeah, it's obvious, but are you doing it? And there was a long pause. These are stuff we have to now do. We have to proactively, consciously decide to shift our clients from the longer term expectation, because that's too much of a mystery meat right now, into what do you need right now? What do you need by the end of the day? What do you need by next week? What's the right thing for you? What's the right thing for your family now? And so we really have to work hard at getting out of the patterning that we have set for ourselves of always working with a strategic goal and a tactical goal. We have to still work with a shorter term, long-term goal, so to speak, and certainly the now-term goal. But it's very important to kind of throttle those back and move forward. Bullet number 6, you're going to see that show up as, one of our job as coaches is to give clients different perspectives, give them ideas for give them some ideas for possible outcomes. We don't dictate them, but we certainly can help create the outcomes. And part of creating outcomes or goals is setting some milestones that can be celebrated. And I got to tell you, during crisis times, I don't have a lot of clients that are willing to kind of dance in the street and celebrate. And yet we still need to. We need to find those kinds of milestones, those kinds of things that will give our clients joy. I'll give you an example of one where, very unfortunate situation with the client who had a lot of family stress happening for them. And I could say, well, what do you say when all the problem goes away, we get a beer and celebrate? Well, that's too far off. That's far too long term. It's probably not ethically correct anyways. But the milestone we created is, listen, I'll give you a job throughout the entire day. I know your kids are frustrated and your wife's upset and everyone's upset, but whenever you see a smile, whenever you see one of your family smile, I want you to acknowledge that and celebrate it. That's the milestone that you can work with today. And so the more as coaches we can move people to look at what is, to look for the more rewarding side of what is, the more powerful their life is going to be, and certainly more powerful our coaching is going to be. And I don't lie to you, this also works for leaders. That's why I don't want to, narrow you down into a world, because I know there's about half of us are coaches and half of us aren't, which is fine, but that probably tells me you're a coach of some sort anyways. But isn't it interesting to really help your employees celebrate a milestone of success, rather than it's difficult to get a hold of that company because everybody's away, or I can't finish this project because nobody responds to me. I need everybody together in a meeting. I can't do that. Those are all the things that make us unhappy. So why not celebrate when you get an email back from that person that's avoided you? Why not celebrate when the day is over and you made sure that your to-do list is done? We can find ways to set milestones for that. So I'm encouraging you to be amazingly innovative and creative with that. Let's look at bullet number 7. Bullet number 7 is true for everybody, is increase the connection frequency. And we got to be real creative, and you're seeing it. I've seen my kids now are having, a Zoom game nights, and you're starting to see that popularity. I'm offering virtual coffees to people in Europe because I usually spend some time there, and now can't, obviously. And so you can come up with real creative ways. And maybe it's just, do something surprising, like leave a voicemail to your clients. Thought I'd check in, no reason to call back, just know that I'm thinking of you. We had, a part of the story that Allison was talking about was, one of our coaches, one of our facilitators decided to reach out to several of our class individuals to say, how's it going? What's your life like? This is, just a very spontaneous, so they're not even clients, just spontaneous response. And it's a wonderful response she got. And very positive reactions coming from people that just, are thankful for being acknowledged. So can really increase that frequency. I've got one of my clients who, because they're in a fairly active, busy trading environment, they are used to constant contact. And he is making sure that he talks to every one of his individuals every day. That is one hell of a commitment. But you could also do that to your clients. Now, every day is a bit of a stretch, but why not make sure that those clients that are every 2 weeks or every week, you check in with them every 2 or 3. It's an obvious thing, but are you doing it, is my question. Sometimes we don't. Let's go to bullet number 8. This kills time. I kind of alluded to the fact that, how was your week? And sometimes we get into this. As coaches, part of that coaching agreements is to create rapport and coaching presence. Those are all skills we teach you, of course. But I don't want to whittle them away and water them down into small talk, because that's when the drama comes in. So how are you surviving through the, I've heard coaches say this over the phone. How are you surviving through the crisis? What's your family doing? It's interesting info, but as all of those people who studied questioning and are very tooled at questioning, the only reason a coach asks a question is not so that they get to the reason, but so that the coachee or the client gets an awareness. And that's really all about happens it happens all in the beginning. I'm trying to read the chat and talk at the same time, which clearly I cannot do. But to really, get over the what is and say, so what's most important for us to talk about today? Let's get to it. This is your time. You're an important person. What do you want to tell me today? What do you want to share with me today? Do you want to share me what's going on in your world? Do you want to tell me about what's important to you? Let's get right to it because you're very, very important. Short audio text. Thank you. See, that was a good tip, and I wanted to read it, but I couldn't. I love that. Voicemail, sending clip to audio tips. I did a video chat the other day, just saying, hey, gang, how's it going? And I got a whole bunch of videos chats back, and I plan to weave them into a bit of an expose, so to speak, of all the different people of our staff reporting back and send it back out. And so, yeah, video chat. Why not? Record something. We do it on Zoom all the time. It's quick and easy to do. Let's go to point number 9. Start asking, what does good need to look like? There's not going to, what we knew to be last week is not going to be what, this is going to end up. There'll be a new. There'll be a new business as usual. We can spend all sorts of time guessing what it might be. We could spend all sorts of energy and fuel into how to set goals for when we return. But the truth is, we don't know when we're going to return. We don't know what business as usual is going to be. So let's not get stuck in that rut. Let's just say, what would be the best thing? What's good look like? What would you like to drive to? This is a really good time to move what you would call your typical goals to an intention. What's your intention for the next 2 weeks? Allison talked about the 4 opportunities, to rest and meditate. What's your intention around your meditation? Do you want to have peace? Do you want to just get away from the kids? Do you want to have, a moment just to yourself? What's your real intention? And really set that intention. What's your intention as a coach for your clients? Is your intention for your coach, your clients, for them to be successful and navigate through it? Is their intention to be able to make yourself available? Whatever your intention is. Absolutely, describe what good needs to look like in the immediate terms as opposed to the future. Let's go to number 10. And this is normally when we stop, but I'm reserving number 11 just for fun. And actually, it's very real. But self-care, folks, if you're a coach, and I have proven this umpteen million times. When I stop developing myself, my practice tanks. It just does. When I start developing myself, when I start doing self-care, when I start going to education and courses, all of a sudden my practice comes back to life. Why? Because I'm getting more enthusiastic. Maybe I'm getting more techniques, but what I believe it is the energy that I have now that I'm absorbing because I'm learning is being welcomed and attracting those clients to come in. Now, you can have all sorts of philosophies you want around the world of law of attraction, but the truth is, take care of yourself first so that you can actually be in your very best moment every moment that you're with your client or with your wife or with your staff or whatever the context that you're operating in, right? Please do not, take your mask off and give it to somebody else. Keep your mask on. You must be healthy mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally in order to really provide a service to any other human being. And so I'm going to ask you to really check yourself first and then move to your client set. Number 11, some will find this provocative, others won't, but for goodness sakes, if you're a coach, as empathetic and as sympathetic as we are, please recognize the value that you can bring to the people you support. Now, I'm not saying go charge them $500 an hour just because you're a rockin' guy. But I am saying that, you have the opportunity with your skills to make a difference in people's lives. Part of that difference making is for you give you the ability to continue to do that. And part of that is that there needs to be some level of payment for service. It does 2 things, as you know. We talk about that in our coach training. payments, it's a bit of a two-way obligation. If I give things for free, that's the value you're going to put on it. This means you're probably not going to show up for the meetings or the sessions. It means that, you know, it was an okay time. But if you're now putting some sort of payment into it, then you're more likely to take it seriously and recognize the value. And it's just the way humans work, folks. You know that. You've shopped at Amazon.ca a million times, or .com, wherever you shop. You're looking for, you know, the value, and yet those items that are normally, you know, cost $100 and you've got somebody selling it for 25, you know darn well that's not the value that you want. So we know that now payment could be physical dollars, it could be a set of coffee, it could be a gift certificate. I got a gift certificate to a grocery store in my local town. That was pretty cool. That was great payment. A testimonial for your website, whatever it is. But please make sure, coaches, if you're in this business, stop giving it away for free, because you're much more valuable than that. Regardless of your training level, you are much more valuable than giving your gifts away for people that have the capacity to acknowledge it. That is my 11. That's my top 11 and my top hits. As I say, whatever perspective, whatever lens you want to put them through, either coach with your clients, leader with your employees, parent with your kids, a parent with your parents, all of those are very powerful ways of really helping yourself and others through what we are deeming now as a crisis. So I will give that back to Sandra to carry on, but thank you for the moment for giving the 10 plus.
Thank you so much, Merv. That was amazing. I've learned so much just from that list. And as a reminder to everybody, because I know there is at least one of you that were having issues seeing the bullet points on the screen, we will be sending out a copy of the slides after the webinar, so you will have that full list at your disposal as a reminder to yourself. Now, regardless of where you are in your coaching journey, we do have solutions for you. So if you want to take the first step towards coaching, we have a great introductory program, 555 Coaching Skills Training Program. If you are ready to become a credential coach with the ICF, Fast Track to ICF Credential is an amazing program. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. If you're on your way to an ICF credential, meaning that you've already started some coach training and you just kind of want to fill everything in, we offer mentor coaching as well as a prep class to write the coach knowledge assessment. And if you are an experienced coach and you're looking for CCEs towards your renewal, we have programs for you about that as well. And if you are ready to become a coaching educator, we can also help you with that. So just please feel free to reach out at any time. And we want to show you what is next. We do have some upcoming courses. Tomorrow, our Advanced Coaching Skills Practicum does begin. I'd like to highlight the Fast Track to ICF Credential Program, which is starting on May 6th, which provides you with the coach training hours as well as the mentor coaching that you would need to apply for your credential, your ACC credential with the ICF. We're also here to support organizations in developing internal coaching capacity, training leaders and managers. So please feel free to reach out about any of that information as well. And like I've said probably too many times today, my link is on the screen. Feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Now, to finish things off, I would like to pass you all back to Allison Hendren.
Well, first of all, thanks, Merv. Thanks, Sandra, and thank you for the comments in the chat area. And I'm really curious. What are you walking away with as a result of today? Now, I've already heard some comments, but I'm curious because to me, this was an example. I mean, there is an example. This is about forward movement. This is energizing. This is positive. There is possibility. There are steps that we can take. And I think it's really important that we always ask our coaches that, we always ask ourselves that, as a way to kind of measure that shift and that change that can take place in a powerful, potent coaching conversation, coaching interaction is so important. There will be, yeah, this was a positive forward movement. It is. There is so much. There is so much going on, and so much that is coming, will come out of this, will continue to come out of this, that is positive in spite of what is happening. And I love this better sense of purpose in daily changing the world. Yes, leadership considerate, but little written from the view of the coach. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that's helpful. Yeah, we're in it. What do we do? How do we do that? And I really like, it is pragmatic. It is, there are so many practical steps that you can take, these little audio clips you can do on messages and send over to your coachees. I found that to be quite helpful. Right. Yeah, dial down the talk about the small talk. Yes, good point. Yeah, the new normal is starting, new abnormal. I like that. Okay, that's and how we know this is going to be a longer adjustment. It's a great opportunity, resetting. And we do that, we should be doing that anyway with our clients as we work through them. And so that's also important. I also want to acknowledge your ability to change direction when we suddenly could not have. We didn't have, the link wasn't working, and things had to be changed, and you jumped on anyway, and you responded to those emails, and you came on, and you came today and took this time for yourselves in gaining some knowledge, hopefully, or some tips, or some tools, or some forward movement. I love the list of them and the reminders, very useful. Shorter term versus longer term. Okay, very, very important. Take care. Be well. Move forward and take action. And support others in moving forward and taking action. And be there for yourselves, be there for your families, and be there for your coachees. Have a fabulous rest of your day. And we're finished early too, which is, you've got 5 minutes. Okay, I'm just watching the chats. Oh, it's so great to see some familiar names too. Wayne, thanks. And other familiar names as well, and I'm sure Merv and Sandra are